had we won the $1 million, we'd have got my daughter a service dog, it would have all been over with. But Strasser mentions, in a way, it's almost a blessing that we didn't win, because all these people that got to come together in support and, as a group, help out my daughter. I mean, that's just more amazing than the $1 million would have done. 1, 2,
3, 4. I want to welcome you to another amazing episode of the GiveSendGo Shine Brightly podcast. Excited to talk to these two guys. Briefly interacted with them before we started recording. I know that there's a lot that we're going to dive into and talk about. There's military history. There's living in a pretty amazing state in the throes of winter, I imagine, right now up there, just like we are up here in New England. But for those of you that are watching, as I typically do, I'm going to direct you to their campaign page so that you can go there and read about their story as well. And that's GiveSendGo.com/Smith Family Service Dog. GiveSendGo.com/Smith Family Service Dog. Cool. So we have this morning, afternoon, wherever you are, Joel and Garrett, who have stumbled upon the GiveSendGo platform. I don't believe stumbling is probably the right word. There's probably some intentionality to it. And so to kick it off, one of the questions I'd like to ask is how did you come to using GiveSendGo? It's great. It's always interesting to me why people choose GiveSendGo over any other platform, because there are several out there.
Well, thanks, Jacob, and thanks for having us on. When I created the fundraiser, I had heard of GiveSendGo probably about a year before. I heard about it. I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was you. Somebody was on a podcast that I was listening to, and they were talking about other platforms picking and choosing who can use them based on policies or politics or whatever. And I was like, I don't want to use a place that picks, I only want these kinds of fundraiser campaigns, and these ones are not allowed. I liked the idea. I remember listening to you or whoever it was talk about how GiveSendGo, anybody can use it, and that it's a Christian based or has a Christian background. Not that has to be the thing, but it just resonated with me, and I said that sounds like the kind of platform that I'd like to use. I hadn't used it before. I've done a different fundraiser in the past for something else, and it was all right. But this one, super easy, by the way. I thought it was going to actually be more complicated when I put it together, but yeah, I think I want to say it was on the Pat Gray podcast that I heard you guys talking about it, but I can't remember for sure where it was.
Okay. Yeah, done a lot of podcasts now, so sometimes they just blend together in my mind, but we've been fortunate to be able to get out there and talk about our story, which is, we think, pretty unique, and it is grounded in that idea that we don't need to be the pickers of winners and losers. Let ideas fall and rise as they may, and allow continue to allow a substrate of freedom to exist in the platforms that exist in our country, instead of just picking ideological winners and losers. So that's GiveSendGo. That's part of our journey. But I'm really interested in you two and the journey that you've been on in this fundraising journey. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit about who the two of you are and your relationship to each other, and then even what brought you to getting this campaign going, and how it was so successful.
Yeah, Strasser and I met, 21 years ago, over 20 years ago, in the military.
Okay. Thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you.
Back at you.
We both have similar backgrounds. We grew up kind of the same way, in religious households. We had a lot of siblings. And so when we met each other in the military, we just had a lot of things in common. So we quickly bonded to each other, became really good friends. And then we came up on a deployment to Iraq, where while in the training in Texas, I ended up injuring my shoulder to the point where they said, we're just going to have to send you home and to rehab it. So at this point, we're thinking we're going to, be in Iraq together, tough circumstances, but we can rely on each other. All of a sudden, I'm going home and he's going to Iraq without me. And I mean, it was a tough situation. But the chance to go on the Amazing Race was kind of our way to say, okay, we didn't do that deployment together, but now here's a big adventure we can go on together where we can help each other through it and all that. And so that was kind of the start of the whole thing.
Okay, so you just threw in a big name in there, the Amazing Race. I know there are probably many people that know of it, but there's probably some people that don't know about what the Amazing Race is. So why don't you tell people what the Amazing Race is and what that was like for you?
So the Amazing Race has been on the air since 2001. We got to participate in the 35th season. And the quick overhead view of it, I guess, is we have 13 teams of 2 that race around the whole world, completing tasks and just trying to get places the fastest. And it's broken up into 12 legs. So each episode or leg of the race, you travel somewhere and you complete tasks as you go. And the last person to check in at the end of that leg gets eliminated. So the pack started with 13 teams. We traveled. We started in Los Angeles. We went to Bangkok, Thailand. Then we went to Vietnam, then India, then Germany, Slovenia, Sweden, Ireland. Did I miss any?
No, I think that was it.
Wow. And then we ended it back in Seattle. So over the course of this journey of these legs, they're always keeping you outside of your comfort zone. They're trying to throw tasks and challenges at you as you go that keep you off balance. And we made some really good friends with the other teams on the show. And it was like every episode when a team got eliminated, it was sad to see it's almost like a family going. Yeah. But then at the end, the final 3 teams that are left have the chance to compete in the finale, and which was in Seattle. And we race for the $1 million prize for whichever team gets to the finish line first. And we
don't spoil it.
Go out
and watch it. You can see how we did in that final leg.
We made it to the finale.
We can talk about it.
We were one of the final teams.
That was the whole point of the GiveSendGo was because of what happened.
We can't talk about this campaign without talking about the outcome of the race. But we were fortunate enough, and we did well enough that we made it to that finale, made it through the full race, and got to compete for the $1 million in Seattle.
That's incredible. What a journey to be able to make it that far, the experience of a lifetime, I would imagine. What was the process just for applying for that? Which is like you saw something come up, you saw an ad somewhere. What was that?
So that's the funny thing is this kind of all started during that Iraq deployment. Okay, Strasser goes to Iraq, and on the Armed Forces Network, he saw the Amazing Race for the first time, which drew him in, and he started asking everybody in the platoon that was there with him, hey, you guys need to apply for this with me. When I'm back at home, and I didn't realize he's asking all these other people. Once he got home, I also became a quick fan of the show. And that was when I started talking to him saying, we need to apply for this. It needs to be us. He speaks French. I speak Spanish. We felt like we could get along in a lot of the countries in the world. And so that was probably about, 17 years ago, 15 to 17 years ago that we first talked about applying for it.
Wow.
But then it took us another however many years before we finally got around to it. And we finally applied for it about a year ago.
Yeah, last January we applied for it after talking about it forever. And the funny thing is, with my work, I had traveled around the country, lived in all different places. Even though I grew up here in the Boise, Idaho area, we were friends, but we weren't living in the same place. And it was when I finally moved back home about almost 2 years ago that we started talking more seriously about applying for the Amazing Race. And one day I'm over at his house and we're talking about it, and we're like, okay, let's actually make an application video. And then like a couple days later, he calls me. He's like, okay, I'm coming over to make the application video. And I'm like, oh, we're really doing this. Okay, we made the video and turned it in, and then just months of the casting process. It's quite it's like the world's longest job interview.
Yeah, and the whole you have no idea if you're going to make it until they finally say you've made it on the show, and it was a whirlwind, really. It was crazy.
So I mean, I don't know do you have spouses? Did you have things? How long of a period was this where you could just stop, kind of pause life to be able to go and do this?
Yeah, so we are married, and I have 5 kids. He's got 4 kids.
Wow,
so we
awesome.
both have families. And so that was the biggest thing, is first talking to our wives, saying, hey, what do you think? Before we even applied, Strasser and I were getting serious about it. I talked to my wife and I said, hey, what do you think about us applying for the race? Because I knew that if we made it, we'd be gone for a while. We didn't know how long at the time, but I knew we'd be gone for a while. My wife right away said, yeah, I think that would be awesome. His wife, same thing. You guys should do it. And so our wives were very supportive.
Awesome.
I'm sure it was much more difficult on them than it was us while we were gone. We were having an experience of a lifetime. They were at home dealing with all these kids. But they're close friends also, so they would get together for dinners, and they kind of went through that time together and had the support of each other. And so, yeah, it's great having a supportive spouse that can really help you do great things in life. So,
right. So how long was that period from when you guys left to when you guys came back?
It was a month,
Yeah,
almost exactly
about a month, yeah.
maybe a month and a day.
Okay.
So we filmed it the last summer of 2023, in June and July is when we were gone.
And one funny thing that's kind of unique that happened also was when we went on that Iraq deployment, the day our flight left for Texas to start all the training down in Texas was my first anniversary. It was on June 7th, my first anniversary. I'm leaving my wife, going with Strasser to Texas on our way to Iraq. 20 years later, we apply for the race. And guess what? Our flight to go to the race left on June 7th, my 20th anniversary.
Wow.
Once again, I'm leaving my wife on a plane with Strasser.
Oh my goodness. That is incredible coincidence there, if you call that.
Anytime you say yes to God, amazing things are going to happen.
Our campaign is to raise money for families that are at the NICU.
Serve the veteran community.
Going and doing something for God's kingdom.
Being the hands and feet of Jesus to people.
You've come together, you've applied, you've got this amazing race. What is the connection between, obviously, that then and the GiveSendGo campaign? You've got I can see the title of the campaign. It's Smith Family Service Dog. So what was the fundraising effort for, and what is the connection, if at all, to the race?
I guess to tell that, we need to start off by talking about my daughter, my 4th child. She was born in 2016, and it was a pretty traumatic birth where we almost lost her. They had to give her CPR for about just over 4 minutes before finally reviving her at birth. After that, they're getting her ready to transport to the NICU, and the doctor pulls me aside and says, I'm seeing signs that look like she might have Down syndrome. We'll test for it to find out for sure, but it seems that she might have Down syndrome. So now we know that our child that is near death and hopefully going to be okay. That's one more thing we need to worry about on top of it. Now, I say worry about, we didn't know much about Down syndrome at the time. We had met a few people with Down syndrome, but we didn't know a lot about it. But in that moment, it's all about getting her healthy. And so that's what we were focusing on. As she started to grow, because of the traumatic birth, we also found out that she had some brain damage from the lack of oxygen, and then has cerebral palsy. So she has cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and she's also deaf. She does have cochlear implants, which do help her in hearing, but she has a lot of struggles. And so as she was growing up, I started wondering, will she be able to walk? Will she be able to feed herself? How much is this going to hold her back in life? As she grew, she eventually learned to walk using a walker, and now she can walk on her own. She does have to wear braces to kind of help her, but now I'll try to make this long story short, but years later, we decided to have a 5th child, which we weren't sure about, but we just felt like through prayer it was the right thing to do. And our 5th child, her name is Allison. She has been the hugest blessing for Brindley, our 4th child. Brindley chases her around the house. Allison will do all kinds of crazy stuff like climb up on the furniture and jump off, and Brindley copies her. Brindley has pushed through so much because of the example of her little sister. And so as I'm seeing her do all these things, I'm thinking, what do I let hold me back in life that I could push through like she does? And so that was kind of a big inspiration for us on the race. Let's not let things hold us back. We were hoping to win the $1 million in order to provide a service dog for my daughter. That was our big goal, was if we could win this, then we could get her a service dog, something my wife and I have wanted for her for a long time. And so that was kind of the big thing. And that's, we talked about it on the show, wanting to get her a service dog if we were to win the race.
The type of service dog that Brindley needs isn't just your average service dog. Like, it needs to be able to do a lot of very specialized things, and those types of dogs don't come cheaply,
Right.
And when the episode aired, it was the second to last episode aired, I think. Smythe mentioned in that episode, because they were having us talk about, like, what will you do if you win? And we're getting into the final three, and he talked about the service dog. Well, the viewers of the show noticed, like, picked up on that. And people on social media and stuff started saying, like, if these guys don't win, we need to make sure they get that dog for his daughter. And I knew we didn't win because we got second place. But I couldn't say it yet because it hadn't aired. So I was like, I'm creating a fundraiser. I go in, I went in and I created the whole fundraiser on GiveSendGo, and I didn't publish it. But then the next day after the finale aired and everyone saw that we got second place, I published it. And I shared it on the Amazing Race fan Facebook page, and people started sharing it everywhere. A few big name influencers, if you will, like, started sharing it on their platforms, and it grew. It blew up. People started donating to it so fast. And I set the goal. I approximated, based on the research I had seen and talking to him, that it was going to be about $60,000 for the type of dog that Brindley needs. So that's where I set the goal. And within 4 days, that goal was exceeded. It just blew me away how fast it caught on. And people said the kindest things in their little comments when they would make donations about how our story touched them and how they can't wait to see this cute little girl get the dog that she needs, and it just warms your heart so much, all the kindness that came through. It was incredible.
That is such an amazing story to see communities rally together and meet a need like that. That's absolutely the foundation of why GiveSendGo exists. To, one, meet a material need. It takes money to meet material needs. We say this often. This is kind of what sets us apart in our core is money. Yeah, you need money to meet the material needs to buy a service dog or whatever the situation may be. But the comments, the pray button that we have where people can send messages of support, they're the intangibles that money really can't buy oftentimes. There's the things that lift your spirit in the midst of, yes, money helping meet the material need, but things that go beyond that. And we love to try to exemplify that as a business. One of the things that we do, and I'm curious if you guys got this, we call campaigns in here in the U.S. and in Canada, and we actually pray over what their endeavor is and try to support them that way. Did you guys get a phone call?
Yeah, that's one thing that I love about GiveSendGo also is, like you said, the prayer button. You can, not everybody can afford to help out with a campaign, but you can support in other ways. And so that's an amazing feature. And then, yes, I did get a phone call, and they prayed over the phone with me. And I mean, that's just so cool that's, part of the whole story with GiveSendGo. And I mean, one thing that we talk about is, had we won the $1 million, we'd have got my daughter a service dog, it would have all been over with. But Strasser mentions, in a way, it's almost a blessing that we didn't win, because all these people that got to come together in support and as a group, help out my daughter. I mean, that's just more amazing than the $1 million would have done.
Yeah, I really believe in many ways it is. It's seeing a story like this that transforms people's own hearts, their opportunity to be able to give. There's a verse in the book of Acts, and in Jesus, there's a quote from Jesus saying, "It's better to give than receive." And I think the foundation in successful campaigns is, one, the opportunity for people to come together and make a difference, and recognize that giving doesn't just transform the person that you're sowing into. It actually begins to transform your own heart, your own life, because you're giving of what you've earned or received in order to bless someone else. And that's a transforming agent for society, which is why we love the platform that we've been able to help steward and see so many people, thousands of people daily, just giving to help meet people's needs.
Every child deserves a loving family. However, adoption expenses can often be overwhelming, but with GiveSendGo, you can confidently start your adoption journey and allow others to support you through their prayers and giving. Give a child the gift of a forever home. Visit www.givesendgo.com to start your adoption campaign now.
So the big question now is this dog become an actuality, or is it still in the process?
It is still in the process. So if you watch the Amazing Race, there was a team on there, Steve and Annalie. So Annalie's mom, which is Steve's wife, she actually has dealt with service dog companies in the past. And so when she heard about this, she reached out to me. She said, I want to be a part of this. She did a lot of research into different companies that could provide service dogs. And so we've narrowed that down. We've picked a place that we're going with. Right now we're in the search for the perfect dog that will bond with Brindley. And so yeah, it's in the process. We haven't found the dog yet, but that's all in the process, and it should be soon.
Okay, well, I know that your fundraising element of the campaign, you shut off, you reached your goal, and you thanked everybody. We're going to turn the campaign back on when this airs, so people can go to the URL, which again is GiveSendGo.com/Smith Family Service Dog. People can read about it there, but it might also be an opportunity for you there's an update element to the campaign where you could post a picture of that event and share that update. And what that does within the system of GiveSendGo is that sends an email out to all those people that followed your campaign, and it gives them that update on where you're at. And I know, just if I was following the story like so many people have and done, and I definitely will now that I've had an opportunity to even talk with you guys more about it, amazing story. But I would love to see that fruition of what I sewed into and seeing pictures around it. So we will turn the campaign back on. If you guys have an opportunity and you're able to update it at some point with a picture or two, I'm sure people would love to see that. Or just even, I know you have various social media channels outside of the GiveSendGo page. Why don't you give people some of those places where people can follow you, that they can hear more about your story, where they can see whatever platforms that you're on? Where can people find you?
Probably the easiest place to follow us would be on Instagram. We each have our own Instagram account, and we made a joint Instagram account also when we went on the Amazing Race. So my Instagram handle is Joel Nert, JoelNert.
And mine's a little longer, and I don't even know if I remember it properly. I think it's at the pesky Mr. Mustachio.
Nice. Okay.
Long, but my face is right on there. So if you search the pesky Mr. Mustachio, you'll probably see it.
And then our joint Instagram is at Joel and Garrett. And in the bio or whatever of that one, the GiveSendGo link is right in there too.
Oh, perfect. So people go there, they can click right into the link to see it and anything that you guys do there. Perfect. So Instagram's primary place for people to reach out to you. You can go to the GiveSendGo page, GiveSendGo.com/Smith Family Service Dog. amazing story. I'm excited to watch the season. I haven't watched an Amazing Race season in a little while now, but it sounds like an incredible opportunity that you guys had and a great journey. So it'd be interesting to pick up and see you guys on the big screen. Any final things that either one of you would like to say as we wrap up today?
Well, I first of all want to thank this guy for even putting that together, because when he was setting the whole thing up behind the scenes before he published it, I didn't even know he was setting it up. I knew that there was a lot of outreach online, people saying, "Hey, we got to do something for him to get his daughter a service dog." But I mean, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know how that's going to happen. And so the fact that Strasser, behind the scenes started setting that all up and getting it prepared, I mean, what a blessing it is to us to have that all set up, an easy way for everyone to come together and help her out. And so I'm grateful for him. I'm grateful for you guys and your platform and the way that it's all set up. And I mean, it's, like I said, a huge blessing to our family.
I want to just add that not winning the Amazing Race was tough. And I will say, if you haven't seen it, anyone who hasn't seen it, and you know that we didn't win, that we got second place, it's still worth watching. It was such a great season. It was one of the better seasons, and I don't have any bias in that. But we came within a whisker of winning. And after the show after we'd filmed it and we were waiting for it to air, it was very tough for me at times to sit and think about little mistakes, or one specific little mistake on my part that stood between us and winning the whole thing. Because it was in our grasp. We were in the lead in the final leg. We even had a substantial lead at one point in the final leg. Like wow. It looked like we were going to win. And for us to fall short by a very small margin at the end, it was hard for me to cope with for a while, just sit and think about. And it wasn't until after the finale aired and we published this campaign, and then we just saw all this outpouring, that my view on that started to change. And I would say it's changed drastically. This became such a big blessing. And Smythe alluded to this a minute ago, and he said, yeah, we could have won and then bought her the service dog and that's it. But it was so much better to see everyone come together, to see all this love. It really did me well, because if you watched, or if you do watch, you will see a specific mistake that I made toward the end that was that could have made the difference between winning and losing. And I'm so grateful that we had this outcome, though. So Brindley's still getting her service dog, and we've made so many friends and seen so much love in the process. It's just been incredible. And I'm so grateful for everybody who donated and shared the story and used their platform to promote this story. It's been quite an incredible experience, the whole thing.
Awesome. It completely sounds like it. This is like a model case for the use of GiveSendGo. We love that you use the platform. Thank you for using the platform and sharing it with so many people. This is how people are finding out about who we are and actually changing the culture in the process as a platform. So thank you to both of you. Best of luck in the future, raising your amazing broods, your children, to transform the world. I love families that have children and that realize the value that they bring to us personally in shaping our lives, but also the value that they can be to the world to bring a difference too. So families with children, I champion. I think it's awesome. Great meeting both of you, Joel and Garrett. Look forward to maybe an opportunity for us to meet at some time in the future. Would love to have that a reality. But if we don't, God bless you guys. Update the campaign when there's an opportunity. I'm sure lots of people would love to see that. And And check these guys out on Instagram. Follow them. For the Shine Brightly community, thank you so much for tuning in today and joining us, hearing about this. Follow this campaign. You can go to GiveSendGo.com/Smith Family Service Dog. Read more about it there. You can check them out on Instagram, and we look forward to talking to you next time.
Yo.